Daf Yomi, Tractate Menachot, page 89a, top of the page with the words V'levet Zahav Kol Dahu Kamashmalan. And consequently, let the mouth of lamps be fashioned from gold of any quality, not necessarily from pure gold. Therefore, the Braita teaches us that even the mouth of the lamps must be fashioned from pure gold. The Mishnah teaches a half log of oil was used to measure oil for the thanks offering. The thanks offering was accompanied by 4 different types of loaves. 3 types were unleavened and 1 was leavened, as the verse states. If he offers it for a thanks offering, then he shall offer with the sacrifice of thanks offering unleavened loaves mixed with oil, and unleavened wafers spread with oil, and poached fine flour loaves mixed with oil. With loaves of leavened bread he shall present his offering with the sacrifice of his peace offerings for a thanks offering. Leviticus 7:12-13. Tanya Rabbi Akiva Omer, Ma Talmud Lomar Bashemin בשמן 2 פעמים. אילו לא נאמר אלא בשמן אחד, הייתי אומר, הרי הוא ככל המנחוס ללוג. עכשיו שחוסר בשמן הווה ריבוי אחר ריבוי. אין ריבוי אחר ריבוי אלא למעט. מיעתו הכתוב לחצי log. It is taught in Braita, Rabbi Akiva says, why must the verse state with oil, writing it twice? Why was the first time not sufficient? Because were the term with oil stated only once, I would have said that with regard to the amount of oil required, the meal offerings that accompany the thanks offerings are like all other meal offerings to the extent that they require 1 log of oil. Now, that the verse wrote with oil, it constitutes one amplification following another amplification, and the principle is that one amplification following another amplification serves only to restrict the extent of the halacha. Accordingly, in this case, the verse restricted the amount of oil used in the 3 types of unleavened meal offerings to a half log for all of them together. Ribuy achar ribuy, chad ribuyhu. The Gemara interjects the citation of the Braita to ask, is this a case of one amplification following another amplification? It would appear that there is only one amplification, as according to the Braita, the first mention of the term with oil is necessary to teach the basic requirement that the meal offerings of the thanks offering require oil, like other meal offerings. How then can it be considered an amplification? Ela ilu lo nema b'shemen, kol igar hayiti omer, הרי הוא ככל המנחוס ללוג. עכשיו שנאמר בשמן הווה ריבוי אחר ריבוי. ואין ריבוי אחר ריבוי, אלא למעט מיעתו הכתוב לחצי לוג. Rather, Rabbi Akiva's statement should be amended as follows. Were the term with oil not written at all, I would still have said that the thanks offering, meal offerings are like all other meal offerings to the extent that they require 1 log of oil. Now that the verse wrote with oil, it constitutes one amplification following another amplification, and the principle is that one amplification following another amplification serves only to restrict the extent of the halacha. Accordingly, In this case, the verse restricted the amount of oil used in the three types of unleavened meal offerings to a half log for all three together. Yachol yechatzi log ze mitchalek לשלושת מינים, לחלויס ולרקיקן ולרביחו. כשהוא אומר בשמן ברביחה, שאין תמר לומר ריבה שמן לרביחו, הכיצד מביא חצי לוג שמן וחוצהו, in brackets it says חציו, לחלות ולרקיקין וחציו לרביחה. The Gemara resumes its citation of the Braita once it has been established that the meal offerings require only a half log of oil. One might have thought that this half log should be equally divided between the three types of unleavened meal offerings, meaning 1/6 of a log for the loaves, 1/6 for the wafers, and 1/6 for the poached loaves. When the verse states with oil with regard to the poached loaves, that is seemingly superfluous, as there is no need for the verse to state the requirement to use part of the half log of oil, being that this requirement has already been established. It must therefore serve to amplify the amount of oil used for a poached loaf as opposed to the other types. How so? One brings a half log of oil and divides it equally into two. Half of it is further divided and used both for the 10 regular loaves and for the 10 wafers, and the other half of it is used entirely for the 10 poached loaves. Amar lo Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Akiva imata merabe kol hayom kulo bashemen eini shomea lach ela chatzi log shemen letoida urevis shemen lenozir ואחד עשר יום שבו נידו לנידו הלך למשה בסיני. This is interesting. Halakha Moshe Sinai. It's a big topic of debate these days. Halakha Moshe Sinai. See here. At the very least, it's mysterious. How do we know what they are? Someone says Halakha Moshe Sinai. I don't know. If I'm advised to. Everyone says something different. Okay. So you have to believe the Tanaim when they say it's Halakha Moshe Sinai, I guess. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said to Rabbi Akiva, even if you were to amplify halachot the entire day from the terms with oil, I would not listen to you and accept your claims. He calls him Akiva. Akiva. Wasn't he much younger than him? What's going on here? I would not listen to you and accept your claims. Rather, the halacha that a half log of oil is required for the thanks offering, and similarly, the halacha that a quarter log of oil is required for the loaves of a Nazarite, and the halacha that a woman who experiences an emission of blood during the 11 days that are between one 7-day period of menstruation and the next period of menstruation is a zava. Each of these is a halacha transmitted to Moses from Sinai, and they are not derived from verses. Bilog hayam moded. So you have disagreements on what the Halakha Moshe Sinai is. If it's a clear Halakha Moshe Sinai, then Rabbi Akiva shouldn't be trying to darshan it. Okay? Belog hayamodid. The Mishnah states that with the vessel of one log, one would measure the oil for all the standard meal offerings. It then cites a dispute between the rabbis who hold that one log of oil is required for each tenth of an ephah of flour used. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, who holds that each meal offering, irrespective of its size, requires only one log of oil. I don't get this. Okay. The Gemara's okay. A meal offering only requires a half log of oil. One might have thought this half log should be equally divided between the three types of unleavened meal offerings. Okay, with oil versus with oil. With regard to poached loaves, there's no need. Okay, so basically they're trying to determine from the verses how much you need for the loaves, the wafers, or the minchas, right? Okay. But then Rabbi Elazar says that even if you were to amplify halachot all day, with oil, all that, I would not listen to you. Eni shemelach, only a half a log for a oil for a toda and a revius of shemen for a nazir, and those things are all halacha Moshe Messinai. So if it is a halacha Moshe Messinai, then why is Rabbi Akiva darshaning it like that? Shouldn't he have been aware of that? I mean, where are these halacha Moshe Messinai actually, where are they kept? Is it just kept by who says it is and who says it's not? Why wasn't Rabbi Akiva aware of it? The Mishnah states that with the vessel of one log, it's an interesting question. One log will measure the oil, the standard meal offerings. It then cites a dispute between the rabbis who hold that one log of oil is required for each tenth of an ephah of flour used, and Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, who holds that each meal offering, irrespective of size, requires only one log of oil. And elsewhere it says the halacha is always like Rabbi Eliezer and Yaakov. So what is it? Tanu Rabbanan Mitzoy Ra'ani Ksiv Esoin Balul Vilog Limed Al-Eson Shiton Log Divrei Chachamim. The sages taught in Braita with regard to a poor leper who cannot afford the standard offerings that are required as part of the purification process, and is required to bring one lamb as a guilt offering and a tenth of an ephah of flour as a meal offering. It is written in a tenth part of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for a meal offering and a log of oil. Leviticus 14:21. The verse juxtaposes the need for a log of oil with the fact the offering is made of a tenth of an ephah of flour. Accordingly, it teaches about each tenth of an ephah of flour that it requires one log of oil. This is the statement of the rabbis. Rabbi Nechemiah and Rabbi Eliezer omrim, afilu mincha shel shishim esroinim, ein la ela luga, shenemar lemincha velog shemen. Rabbi Nechemiah and Rabbi Eliezer say, each meal offering, irrespective of its size, and even a meal offering of 60 tenths of an ephah of flour, requires only a single log of oil, as it is stated with regard to the offering of a leper, and a tenth of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for a meal offering and a log of oil. The juxtaposition of a meal offering with a log of oil teaches a principle for all meal offerings. Each offering requires only one log of oil. Rabbi Nehemiah, the Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, ha isaron balul v'log mai abdi le ahu legufe dika amma rachmana laise chad isaron. The Gemara asks, and as for Rabbi Nehemiah and Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, what do they do with this verse and a tenth part of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for a meal offering and a log of oil, which links the need for a log of oil with the fact that the offering is made out of a tenth of an ephah of fine flour. The Gemara explains that verse is required to teach the matter itself, as the merciful one states, let a poor leper bring an offering of just a tenth of an ephah of flour. Accordingly, it cannot be used to teach a principle about meal offerings. The Gemara asks, and as for the other, meaning the rabbis, how do they respond to this claim? They maintain that it is not necessary to teach the matter itself, as from the fact that the merciful one revealed with regard to a leper who is not poor that he must bring 3 animal offerings and a meal offering of 3/10 of an ephah as part of his purification process. It may be inferred that here, with regard to a poor leper who brings only one offering, that he similarly brings a meal offering of only a tenth of an ephah. Accordingly, the fact that the verse mentions that his offering is only a tenth of an ephah is superfluous and can teach a principle for all meal offerings. The Gemara continues to ask, as for the other, Rabbi Nehemiah and Rabbi Eliezer, how would they respond to this claim? They maintain that it was necessary for the verse to state the size of his meal offering, as otherwise it might enter your mind to say that since the merciful one spared the money of the poor leper by allowing him to bring an offering affordable in poverty, one might say that the merciful one does not require him to bring any meal offering at all. The Gemara asks, and as for the other, the rabbis, how would they respond to this? They claim that we do not find that the Torah entirely exempts a poor person from the offerings of the purification process, only that provides a less expensive way to complete that process. The Gemara asks, and as for the rabbis, what do they do with the juxtaposition in the end of this verse for a meal offering and a log of oil, from which Rabbi Nehemiah and Rabbi Eliezer derive the principle that each meal offering requires only one log of oil? The Gemara explains the rabbis maintain that the juxtaposition teaches about one who donates a meal offering without specifying its size, that he should not bring less than an amount of flour that requires one log. And what is this amount? A tenth of an ephah, the Gemara asks. And as for the other, Rabbi Nehemiah and Rabbi Eliezer, from where do they derive that haloche, as they maintain the verse teaches the principle for all meal offerings? The Gemara explains, they maintain that 2 halachot can be derived from this verse. Okay. The Mishnah lists the quantities of oil and wine that were required for the meal offerings and libations that accompany the sacrifice of an animal: 6 log, meaning 1/2 of a hin for those of a bull, and 4 log, meaning 1/3 of a hin for those of a ram, and 3 log, meaning 1/4 of a hin for those of a lamb. The Gemara asks, from where do we derive these quantities? We derive them from a verse, as it is written, and their libations shall be 1/2 of a hin of wine for a bull, and 1/3 of a hin for a ram, and 1/4 of a hin for a lamb. Numbers 28:14. why were those written and for minchas not? Okay, anyway, according to Rabbi Elazar Azaria, that they're machlok from Sinai. Look at that. Ahin tracer lugi havi and dichsiv shem and zayis hin ksiv shem mishkas kodesh ye ze lido osichem ze begematria tracer havian. Really? The Gemara elaborates. Now, one hin is 12 log. Is written, and then olive oil of a hin, Exodus 30:24, and is written afterward in the same verse, sacred anointing oil, this, zeh, shall be for me throughout your generations. The numerical value of zeh is 12. Once it is established that one hin is 12 log, it is possible to calculate how many log are in 1/2, 1/3, and 1/4 of a hin. Twelve log. Log is what, 39? 33? So one hin is 12 log. So then half a log will be 6 log. A half of a hin would be 6 log. Third would be 4. Quarter. I'm sorry. A third would be 4, and a quarter would be 3. Yeah. Quarter of a hin, 3 log. Shloishu mechzo. Chatzi log nechol now. Manan midi. It's on a one me'avad boikel. Ten lo midoso. Shetei dolekes olekes me'avad boikel. Doverachel. Me'avad boikel ein lecho ma'avoidek shekshel me'avad. The Mishnah teaches 3.5 log of oil were required for the menorah, as there were 7 lamps, and a half log was required for each lamp. The Gemara asks, from where are these matters derived? They are derived from a verse that the sages taught in Braita. The verse states, with regard to the candelabrum, Aaron and his son shall arrange it from evening to morning before the Lord. Exodus 27:21. This indicates that you shall put into each lamp its required quantity of oil, so that it will continue burning from evening until evening. Alternatively, the phrase from evening to morning indicates that the mitzvah is fulfilled throughout the night, and you have no other rite that is valid from evening until morning except this one alone. And the sages calculated that a half log of oil for each lamp is necessary to ensure that they continue burning from evening until morning. How did the sages reach the conclusion that a half a log of oil is needed? There are those who say that the sages calculated it by initially using a large quantity of oil, more than necessary to burn throughout the night, and then decreasing the quantity by a small amount each night until they saw that at the end of the night there was no oil remaining. And there are those who say that they calculated it by initially using a small quantity of oil and then increasing the quantity each night until they saw that the quantity was sufficient to allow the lamps to burn throughout the night. The Gemara elaborates, the one who said that they calculated it by increasing the quantity each night holds that they did so in accordance with the principle that the Torah spared the money of the Jewish people, and so the sages wish to minimize the financial cost of their experimentation. And the one who says they calculated it by decreasing the quantity each night holds that in the temples one's actions should not be motivated by concern for the financial cost, as in the place of wealth there is no poverty. Okay, that's it. New Mishnah. Mar biniski parim, biniski elim, You know what? This is for the next thing. So we'll start 89b with the bottom of 89a. Stop right here. Continue next video.